Iranian troops silently land on U.S. territory, August 14, 2025 in the still, black waters off the Oregon coast. A nightmare is quietly taking shape. Less than an hour ago, Iran launched one of its boldest military operations in modern history, 30 specialized amphibious assault ships cutting through the Pacific, each one packed with lethal cargo, 120 main battle tanks, 60 armored personnel carriers, and 500 of Iran's most elite naval infantry. Their mission is simple in design but catastrophic in intent: seize a small, isolated American town, fortify it, and transform it into a forward base for deeper incursions into U.S. soil. To Tehran's planners, the operation is flawless, a calculated strike at the weakest seam in America's coastal defenses. But what they don't know is that their perfect plan is already unraveling. High above, at 65,000 feet, an American stealth drone has been shadowing their every move, updating U.S. command every 5 seconds. On the shore, coastal missile batteries are locked and waiting. Beneath the waves, an attack submarine prowls silently. Above, 80 armed drones circle unseen, ready to unleash devastation at a moment's notice. The question isn't whether America knows, it's how long they'll wait before springing the trap. The approach, 2:15 a.m., August 14th, 2025 in the cold darkness of the North Pacific, 180 nautical miles west of Astoria, Oregon. Iran's most audacious military gamble in decades slips through the swells. 30 amphibious assault ships advance in total blackout, their engines tuned to low signature mode to evade detection by sonar or satellite. Each vessel carries 55-ton main battle tanks, 2 armored personnel carriers, and a 17-man strike team of elite naval infantry. Collectively, the flotilla brings over 6,000 tons of armored steel, 120 tanks, 60 APCs, 500 Marines, more than 250,000 rounds of ammunition, 600 anti-tank missiles, and enough explosives to obliterate a small town in under 40 minutes. Their chosen target is an unassuming fishing community of fewer than 3,800 residents, defended by a single outdated coastal radar covering barely 300 meters of shoreline. The perfect weak point, the plan: land fast, crush local resistance, and dig in before American reinforcements can respond. Communications are locked under 256-bit military-grade encryption. Emission control is absolute. No stray signals, no unnecessary chatter. The convoy sails in a formation, mimicking scattered commercial traffic to blend into maritime traffic databases. On the bridge of the lead ship, Iranian commanders hunch over landing charts and synchronized assault timetables. They believe they have achieved total surprise. The reality, the trap is already closing. What the Iranian captains can't see is the silent predator above them, an American stealth UAV, invisible to radar, feeding live thermal and visual tracking to U.S. Naval Command every 5 seconds. At Pearl Harbor, the signal is received and passed within 90 seconds to Pacific Fleet Headquarters in San Diego. With that transmission, Operation Black Tide is activated, a rapid elimination protocol designed to wipe out any amphibious invasion within 15 minutes. The orders are clear: do not engage yet. Let the flotilla sail deeper into the pre-drawn kill box, a lethal corridor 22 nautical miles wide and 35 nautical miles long, where American firepower can hit every single ship at once. The killbox, American assets in position 3 strike. Elements move into place. ADMQ-5 Stingray UAVs, each armed with 500-pound precision-guided bombs, a combined payload of 80,000 pounds of high explosives. USS North Dakota, a Virginia-class attack submarine, glides into ambush depth at 820 feet, running silent at 25 knots. Loaded with 38 Mark 48 heavyweight torpedoes and 12 Tomahawk Block V cruise missiles to coastal missile batteries, primed, with 20 for RGM-8 for Harpoon anti-ship missiles, each with a 488-pound warhead capable of tearing a warship in half. Inside the U.S. Operations Center, 14 massive digital displays plot every Iranian course correction, every knot of speed, every temperature signature. The enemy is moving at 14 knots, calculated to enter the kill box in precisely 27 minutes. The Iranians still see nothing. Their radar screens show an empty sea. They have no idea that death circles above them at 40,000 feet, and a submarine stalks them from less than 12 miles astern. The final minutes when the strike begins, over 100 tons of explosives will rain down in the first 60 seconds. The news tightens at 2:42 a.m. The Iranian flotilla unknowingly crosses the invisible threshold of the kill box. From this moment forward, time is no longer counted in minutes, but in seconds. At 2 hours 42 minutes and 7 seconds, the opening salvo, a burst of encrypted commands shot from U.S. Naval Command to ADMQ to 5 Stingray UAVs silently circling at 40,000 feet. Each was equipped with AAQ for electro-optical targeting systems, already locked onto pre-assigned targets. These were no experimental prototypes. They formed the backbone of America's modern maritime strike capability. Each drone could release its payload from 20 meters away with surgical precision, achieving impact within a margin of 1-2 meters. At 2 hours 42 minutes and 15 seconds, the first wave struck. 160 GBU-5 3B small diameter bomb to munitions detached from the drones and plummeted toward their marks. Each carried 250 pounds of high-explosive Blue-97 submunitions, engineered to punch through armor plating and ignite secondary fuel stores. Falling at Mach 1.5 in near-vertical descent, the bombs hit 10 lead Iranian ships within just 8 seconds. The destruction was instant and devastating. One vessel erupted into a fireball over 200 feet high, its 4 onboard fuel tanks detonating in sequence. The resulting chain reaction hurled 24 tons of steel fragments into the surrounding sea. Another ship's deck tore apart, flinging armored personnel carriers into the water as if they were children's toys. The shockwaves were so intense that Iranian troops 200 meters away were thrown overboard. The Iranian formation collapsed in seconds. Ships swerved wildly to avoid colliding with burning hulks, shattering their defensive spacing. That was when the second wave of drones struck. Another 160 bombs slammed into the center and rear of the column, obliterating radar arrays, touching off ammunition stores, and setting fuel reserves ablaze. By 2 hours 43 minutes and to seconds less than 50 seconds after the first bomb fell, 14 Iranian ships were either sinking or engulfed in flames. Casualties mounted rapidly. Over 180 Iranian Marines were confirmed dead within the first minute, with dozens more wounded or trapped below deck. Meanwhile, USS North Dakota, stationed 8 nautical miles astern of the battle, launched for Mach 48 Mod 7 heavyweight torpedoes at ships attempting to turn and flee. Each torpedo moved at 55 knots, guided by advanced sonar to strike directly beneath the keel, the structural breaking point of a vessel. The underwater detonations generated shockwaves exceeding 500 psi, snapping holes in half and sending the shattered remains to the ocean floor in under 90 seconds. Iranian communications dissolved into chaos. Channels meant for encrypted amphibious landing coordination became clogged with overlapping distress calls. Some captains tried to beach their vessels on nearby sandbars, only to be obliterated by follow-up drone strikes. Above, the UAVs continued their relentless assault, their AI-assisted targeting systems instantly reallocating munitions to ships that had survived the initial barrage. By 2 hours 44 minutes and 30 seconds, the once proud Iranian formation had disintegrated into a scattering of burning wrecks drifting through an oil-slicked, debris-strewn sea. And yet the battle was far from over. The coastal missile batteries had yet to fire a single shot. At 2:45 a.m., the surviving Iranian ships, barely a third of their original number, were in full retreat, engines pushed to their limits, wakes foaming in desperate flight. But their escape route was already compromised. They had sailed directly into the overlapping kill zones of 2 U.S. coastal missile batteries hidden along the Oregon coastline. The order came: fire all tubes. Within 6 seconds, 24 RGM-8 for Harpoon Block II plus anti-ship missiles roared from their launchers. Each was 15 feet long, weighing 1,523 pounds, and carried a 488-pound high explosive warhead skimming just 15 feet above the sea surface at Mach 0.85. They evaded radar until the terminal climb, where GPS and active radar guidance locked them onto their targets. The first salvo struck 3 retreating Iranian vessels almost simultaneously. One ship's forward section disintegrated when its ammunition hold containing more than 20,000 rounds detonated in a blinding flash. Another missile pierced the engine room of a tank carrier, igniting 10,000 gallons of diesel into a rolling inferno visible for 14 miles. USS North Dakota joined the slaughter, linked directly to the UAV network. Its fire control system launched to Tomahawk Block V cruise missiles toward vessels hiding in the smoke. Flying barely 100 feet above the waves at 550 miles per hour each, Tomahawk carried a 1,000-pound penetrating warhead capable of tearing through reinforced decks before detonation. Both targets were annihilated, one splitting in two, the other capsizing within minutes. Above, the 20 surviving UAVs from the initial strike phase began hunting stragglers. Switching from bombs to AGM-11 for our Hellfire missiles, each 100 pounds with a shape-charged warhead, they targeted lifeboats and smaller assault craft attempting to ferry troops ashore. A slick of oil and drifting debris marked the graveyard of an armada. In total, 26 Iranian ships had been destroyed at sea, with 4 more crippled beyond repair and later sunk. Over 300 Iranian Marines were confirmed dead, while 200 survivors were pulled from the freezing waters and taken prisoner. All 120 main battle tanks and 60 armored personnel carriers had gone to the depths, along with hundreds of tons of ammunition and supplies. The battle itself lasted less than 6 minutes from the first UAV strike to the final missile impact. The kill ratio was absolute. 100% of the Iranian amphibious force eliminated without a single American fatality. The ocean fell silent again, but it was no longer a natural silence. It was broken only by the crackle of fires, the hiss of sinking hulls, and the distant thrum of American engines fading toward home. By 3:10 a.m., it was over. The North Pacific was now littered with twisted metal, burning fuel, and shattered wreckage. The smell of diesel and cordite hung over the waves for miles. U.S. Navy recovery teams, aided by MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, began pulling survivors from the frigid 50 degrees Fahrenheit waters. Of the 500 Iranian Marines who had set sail only hours earlier, 200 were captured, many suffering from hypothermia, burns, and shrapnel wounds. The scale of material loss was staggering. 30 specialized amphibious assault ships had been destroyed or sunk. 120 main battle tanks and 60 armored personnel carriers now rested on the seabed, 180 nautical miles offshore. Over 6,000 tons of armored steel and hundreds of tons of munitions were gone irretrievable. Iranian casualties reached 300 dead, marking the single most devastating defeat for their naval infantry in modern history. In contrast, U.S. forces reported 0 fatalities and only 2 minor injuries, both sustained during recovery operations. Intelligence teams immediately began interrogating the prisoners. Among them were 3 senior Iranian naval officers carrying encrypted tablets containing invasion maps, logistics schedules, and contingency plans. Forensic cyber units cracked the encryption within 36 hours, uncovering preparations for 2 additional landing operations in other coastal regions, both neutralized before they could begin. 18 hours later, the Pentagon released satellite imagery of the battle zone. The photographs revealed sprawling oil slicks, some stretching over 5 nautical miles, and debris fields covering more than 40 square miles. It was a portrait of total annihilation. The political shock was immediate. International news networks ran non-stop coverage of the failed invasion, with military analysts calling it the most decisive naval interception since the Falklands War. In Tehran, the government scrambled to explain how an entire amphibious task force had been wiped out in under 6 minutes. For the United States, the message was clear and deliberate. Any hostile force attempting to breach its shores would face overwhelming, coordinated firepower. Within 72 hours, U.S. Navy recruitment inquiries surged by 47%, and defense analysts worldwide began reassessing the balance of power in the Pacific. Operation Black Tide was over, but its strategic shockwaves had only just begun. The wreckage off the Oregon coast would take weeks to clear, yet the real message was already etched into military history. The United States had not merely repelled an invasion, it had demonstrated a doctrine of instant, layered, and absolute response. In less than 6 minutes, 30 warships, 120 tanks, 60 armored carriers, and 500 elite troops had been erased from the battlefield. For Iran, the losses went beyond lives and equipment. Their credibility was shattered. Military planners in Tehran now face the undeniable reality. American surveillance and precision strike capabilities extended far beyond what they had calculated. The loss of 3 senior officers and the capture of operational data stripped away any chance of concealing the disaster. International observers labeled it a turning point in modern amphibious warfare. Nations with similar ambitions began quietly rethinking coastal assault strategies, realizing that stealth fleets and encrypted communications were no guarantee of survival. The killbox strategy, once a closely guarded American tactic, had now been demonstrated on the world stage with devastating clarity. But behind the headlines and satellite imagery lay the human truth. The sailors and aviators who carried out the mission flawlessly, the operators who tracked every movement for hours, and the planners who made the calculated decision to wait until the enemy was exactly where they needed to be. In the end, the sea returned to silence, but it was not peace, it was deterrence, forged in precision, discipline, and overwhelming firepower. If you believe stories like this need to be told, remembered, and learned from, support the channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. History's warnings are only valuable if we choose to hear them.